There is a product sitting in the laundry aisle of every grocery store and big box retailer in the country. It costs about $5 to $10 a box. It has been used for over 100 years in everything from cleaning products to insecticides to industrial water treatment. And the pool industry has almost no incentive to tell you about it, because if you use it once, you will stop buying 3 other products forever. Right now, there is a very good chance you are trapped in a cycle you do not even recognize. You test your water. The pH is high. You pour in some acid. 2 days later, it is high again. You pour in more acid. Maybe you swing it too low. Now you need soda ash. Back and forth, week after week, all season long. Acid, base, test, repeat. You are spending $30 to $60 a season on pH adjusters alone, pouring chemicals into water that refuses to stay balanced. And nobody at the pool store has ever told you there is a single, cheap, one-time addition that can make pH practically stop moving. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what that product is, why it works at a chemistry level that your alkalinity alone cannot touch, and 3 things you can do this week to install this fix in your own pool. No subscription, no gadget, no monthly cost. 1 trip to the store and you are done. Start with the problem, because nobody appreciates the cure until they feel the disease. Your pool's pH wants to go up. That is not a flaw. That is physics. Dissolved carbon dioxide is what holds pH down in water. It forms carbonic acid, a weak acid that keeps your water on the slightly acidic side of neutral. But carbon dioxide is a gas, and gases want to leave water and enter the atmosphere. It is the same reason a can of soda goes flat on the counter. The carbon dioxide escapes, and with it goes the acidity that was holding pH in check. Now, before we continue, if you're tired of dumping money at the pool store and still fighting cloudy water, I wrote a 39-page playbook called Jimmy's Pool Playbook, From Cloudy to Crystal Clear. It covers the grocery store method that replaces expensive pool chemicals with bleach, baking soda, and borax, the full slam process for green pools, a printable weekly routine, and the only 5 numbers you actually need to test for. I went from spending $600 a season to under $150, and my water has never looked better. My daughter helped me put it online, so the link below this video should work. Alright, let's keep going. In a swimming pool, this process never stops. Every hour of every day, carbon dioxide is off-gassing from the surface, and pH is creeping upward. Everything that agitates the surface speeds it up. Your return jets, a waterfall, a spillover spa, kids cannonballing all afternoon. Even your pool cleaner breaking the surface pushes carbon dioxide out faster. If you run a salt chlorine generator, it is even worse. The electrolysis process inside the cell creates tiny bubbles that accelerate the gas loss, which is why salt pool owners feel like they are married to their acid jug. The result is a pool that drifts high constantly. And high pH is not just an annoying number. At a pH of 8, your chlorine is operating at roughly 20% of its killing power. You could have a perfect free chlorine reading and still be swimming in water that is not sanitizing properly. Your eyes sting. Your water hazes. Scale forms on your heater, your tile, and your salt cell. And the fix the industry sells you is the same fix it has always sold you. Another jug of acid, another bag of dry acid, and another visit to the store. Here is the thing nobody says out loud. You already have a system in your pool that is supposed to prevent this. It is called total alkalinity. Total alkalinity measures the dissolved bicarbonate in your water, the buffering system that is supposed to resist changes in pH. Every certification class, every pool store handout, every beginner guide on the internet tells you the same thing. Keep your alkalinity between 80 and 120 parts per million, and your pH will stay stable. That is half the truth, and the half they leave out is the half that matters. The bicarbonate buffering system has a pKa, a chemistry term for the pH at which it buffers best, of about 6.3. Think of the pKa as the center of gravity for the buffer. The closer your pH sits to that number, the harder the buffer pushes back against change. The further away, the weaker the resistance. Now look at where we need our pool pH. 7.2 to 7.6. That is a full unit above the bicarbonate buffer's sweet spot. Your alkalinity is trying to hold pH steady from a position that is, chemically speaking, a long reach. It buffers reasonably well against pH going down, acids, rain, acidic sanitizers. But against the upward drift that every pool naturally experiences, it is weak. It is doing its best from a bad angle. This is why your pH keeps climbing even when your alkalinity is textbook perfect. The buffering system everyone taught you to rely on was never designed to stop upward drift. It is fighting with one hand tied behind its back. And so you pour more acid. And 2 days later, you pour more acid. And if you overcorrect, if you pour a little too much and drop pH below 7, now the water is corrosive. It etches your plaster. It attacks your heater. It stings every pair of eyes in the pool. So you reach for soda ash to bring it back up. And now you are on a seesaw, overcorrecting in both directions, burning through 2 different chemicals to chase a number that will not sit still. Every pool owner on every forum on the internet posts the same question. Why does my pH keep going up? And gets the same answer. Check your alkalinity. And they check it. And it is fine. And the pH still climbs. Because the answer was never alkalinity. The answer was a second buffer that almost nobody told them existed. So here is the product nobody at the pool store is going to recommend. Borates. That is it. Boron-based compounds, borax, boric acid, that you can buy in the laundry aisle under the brand name 20 Mule Team for the borax version, or from a chemical supplier as granular boric acid, the same mineral that has been used in household cleaners for over a century. It has been sitting on the shelf this entire time. And I know that sounds underwhelming, so let me tell you exactly what it does and why it changes the way your pool behaves. When you dissolve borates in your pool water to a level of 30 to 50 parts per million, you install a second buffering system on top of the alkalinity buffer you already have. And this one has a pKa of about 9.2. That means it buffers strongest against pH changes as pH approaches 9.2, which means it is pushing back hardest in exactly the direction your pool is trying to drift. Think about what that gives you. Your alkalinity buffers against pH dropping, with its strength centered around 6.3. Your borates buffer against pH rising, with their strength centered around 9.2. The 2 systems bookend the range you actually want to live in, 7.2 to 7.6, like guardrails on both sides of a highway. One catches you if you drift left, the other catches you if you drift right. Together, they hold pH in a window that neither one of them could hold alone. That is not marketing. That is buffer chemistry. 2 complementary systems with 2 different pKa values, bracketing the target range. The pool industry teaches you about one of them and forgets to mention the other, and then sells you acid every week to compensate for the gap. Now here is where it gets interesting. Because borates do not just babysit your pH. They bring a second benefit that is almost as valuable, and a third that most people do not expect. The second benefit, borates are an algistat, not an algicide. They do not kill algae that is already growing, but they prevent it from taking hold in the first place. The mechanism is genuinely clever. Borates interfere with the metabolic processes inside algae cells. They disrupt cell wall development, mess with cell division, and starve algae by locking up the enzymes it needs to feed. An algae spore lands in your water, and instead of finding a warm buffet, it finds a hostile environment where it cannot reproduce. The practical result is a pool that resists algae blooms even when your chlorine dips briefly during a hot week, after a party, or on a vacation when you missed a dose. Your chlorine demand drops because it is not spending its energy fighting algae that should never have gotten a foothold. Some pool owners report cutting their chlorine use significantly after adding borates. The conservative estimate is that you will use noticeably less sanitizer. The aggressive claims go as high as 30 to 50% reduction, though the real-world number depends on your pool, your climate, and your maintenance habits. Either way, less chlorine burned means less chlorine bought. The third benefit is the one people never shut up about once they experience it. The water feels different, softer, silkier. It is hard to describe until you swim in it, but borates reduce the surface tension of the water in a way that makes it feel smoother on your skin. Your hair feels less stripped after a swim. Your eyes sting less. It is not a gimmick. It is the same reason borate compounds show up in eye drops and contact lens solutions. They are gentle on tissue at the concentrations we are talking about. pH stability, algae resistance, and water that feels better to swim in. From a product in the laundry aisle. And here is the fact that seals it. Borates do not get used up. They do not evaporate. They do not degrade in sunlight. They do not get consumed by any chemical reaction in your pool. The only way borates leave your water is if the water itself physically leaves through splash-out, backwashing, a leak, or a drain. In a normal season with normal water loss, you add borates once, maybe touch them up once, and they just sit there working all summer long. So let me walk you through exactly how to do this, because the execution matters as much as the idea. You have two options for the source chemical, borax or boric acid. They both deliver boron to your water, but they behave differently going in. Option 1, borax. This is the grocery store path. 20 Mule Team Borax, laundry aisle, about $5 to $10 a box depending on where you shop. Borax is strongly alkaline, which means it will push your pH up hard as you add it. For a 15,000-gallon pool going from 0 to 40 parts per million of borates, you are looking at roughly 40 to 45 pounds of borax. That is about 11 boxes, and you will need approximately 2.5 to 3 gallons of muriatic acid to counteract the pH rise as you go. The critical technique with borax, you do not dump it all in at once. You alternate rounds. Add a portion of borax, dissolved in a bucket of pool water first. Never dump the powder straight in. It will cake on the bottom. Then add the corresponding portion of acid. Run the pump for an hour. Retest. Repeat. 3 or 4 rounds spread across a day, and you are done. If you try to do it all at once, you will spike your pH past 8.5 and cloud the water. Patience on day 1 saves you a headache on day 2. Option 2, boric acid. This is the cleaner path. Granular boric acid is essentially pH neutral going in, so you skip the acid pairing dance entirely. You dissolve it, pour it in, and you are done. The downside is availability and cost. Boric acid is harder to find locally. You will likely order it online, and it costs a bit more per dose than borax plus acid. But if the idea of alternating rounds of borax and muriatic acid sounds like a hassle, boric acid is the shortcut. Either way, the target is the same, 30 to 50 parts per million of borates. 50 is the generally accepted ceiling. Above that, you are not gaining meaningful benefit, and you start to matter more for pets that might drink the pool water. Test with borate-specific strips after 24 hours of circulation, and you are set for the season. The total cost of this, one time, for a typical backyard pool, somewhere in the range of $30 to $60, depending on whether you go borax or boric acid. That is it. That is your entire pH stabilization budget for the season, possibly for multiple seasons, if you are not losing a lot of water. Compare that to the $30 to $60 most pool owners spend every single year on acid and soda ash, fighting a pH drift that never needed to exist in the first place. In year 1, you break even at worst. In year 2, you are ahead. In year 5, you have saved hundreds of dollars and hundreds of trips to the store, and your pH has barely moved all summer. Now here is where I do what the pool store never does, and tell you the limitations, because borates are not magic, and I am not going to pretend they are. Borates do not eliminate the need for acid entirely. They dramatically reduce how often you need it and how much you use. But a pool with heavy aeration, a big waterfall, or a raised spa spilling over may still need a small acid correction now and then. The drift will be slower, it will be smaller, but it may not be zero. Borates do not replace total alkalinity. You still need your alkalinity in the 80 to 120 range as a foundation. Think of alkalinity as the floor and borates as the ceiling. You need both. If your alkalinity is out of whack when you add borates, you will be buffering a mess instead of buffering a balanced pool. Get the water right first, then add the borates. Borates do not kill existing algae. If your pool is already green, borates are not the answer. You need to slam it with chlorine first, get it clear, and then add borates as the prevention layer. Borates are the immune system, not the antibiotic. And borates are hard to remove. Just like cyanuric acid, the only exit is dilution. Drain water, add fresh. If you overdose past 50 parts per million, you are draining to bring it down. This is why you measure carefully, add in rounds, and test after 24 hours. Do it right once, and you never have to think about it again. Do it sloppy, and you have created a different headache. And one more thing worth knowing. Borates are especially powerful for salt pool owners. If you run a salt chlorine generator, you already know the pH treadmill is worse for you than for anyone else. The electrolysis process inside your cell produces sodium hydroxide as a byproduct. That is literally lye, one of the strongest bases on Earth, and it pushes pH up aggressively, constantly. Salt pool owners are the people buying the most acid, adding it the most often, and getting the least relief. Borates do not fix the cell's chemistry. It will still produce that hydroxide, but they absorb the upward push and slow it dramatically. Instead of adding acid twice a week, you might add it twice a month. For a salt pool, borates are not just helpful, they are close to essential. Those are honest, visible, manageable limitations. A pH that silently drifts every 48 hours until you pour more acid is not honest. One of these problems you can see and plan for. The other hides behind a test strip that just says, "Hi again." 3 checks you can run this week. 3 actions that cost almost nothing, and verify every claim in this video with your own water and your own test kit. Check 1. Track your pH for a full week without correcting it. I know that sounds irresponsible, but hear me out. Test your pH every morning for 7 days. Write it down. Do not add acid. Do not add soda ash. Just watch it move. What you will see is a consistent upward creep, probably 0.2 to 0.4 of a point over the week, depending on your aeration and alkalinity. That pattern is the exact drift that borates are designed to flatten. Run this test, and you will understand in your bones what the acid treadmill actually looks like, plotted on paper instead of hidden behind reactive corrections. Check 2. Test your borate level. Most pool owners have never tested this number because nobody told them it existed. Pick up a set of borate test strips. They are inexpensive and widely available online. Test your water. If the reading is 0 or near 0, you are running on a single buffer system. You have 1 guardrail on a 2-lane road. That single number tells you whether you have the fix installed or not. Check 3. Calculate your annual acid spend. Go look at your receipts, your Amazon orders, your pool store loyalty card. Add up every gallon of muriatic acid, every bag of dry acid, every container of soda ash you bought last season. That total is the tax you are paying for a buffering gap that costs $30 to $60 to close permanently. Run the number. It speaks for itself. Let me zoom out, because this is not really a video about borates. It is a video about the same pattern that shows up over and over in pool care. The industry teaches you to react. pH is high, pour acid. pH is low, pour soda ash. Chlorine is low, add shock. Algae appeared, buy algaecide. Every problem is a purchase. Every solution is a product you have to buy again next week. Borates break that model. They do not react to a problem. They prevent the problem from occurring. You install a chemical system once, and that system quietly does its job in the background, week after week, without you buying anything, without you testing frantically, without you driving to the store. The reason nobody at the counter recommends it is not because it does not work. It is because a customer who adds borates once a year does not come back every 2 weeks for acid. That is not a conspiracy. Nobody is twirling a mustache. It is just a business model that runs on your next visit, and a fix that eliminates the visits. The people who already run borates in their pools tend to say the same thing. They say the water looks different, clearer, with a faint sparkle that is hard to photograph, but obvious in person. They say it feels different, silky, easy on the skin. And then they say the thing that matters most. They say they stopped chasing pH. It just sits there, week after week, right where it belongs, barely moving, while the rest of the neighborhood is pouring acid every Sunday. Here is what the before and after actually looks like. Before borates, you test pH on Monday, it is 7.8, you add acid, it drops to 7.4, and by Thursday it is 7.8 again. You add more acid. By Saturday, you are back at 7.6 and climbing. Every week, same cycle. You go through 2 to 3 gallons of muriatic acid a season minimum. Your hands smell like hydrochloric acid. You have a jug of something dangerous sitting in your garage next to your kids' bicycles. After borates, you test pH on Monday. It is 7.5. You test it on Thursday. It is 7.5. You test it the following Monday. It is 7.5. You stare at your test kit like it is broken. It is not broken. Your water just finally has the chemistry to hold itself in place. They were never buying a product. They were buying stability. And stability, it turns out, has been sitting in the laundry aisle this entire time for about $5 a box. If this saved you a season of acid runs, drop your pool size and your current pH adjustment frequency in the comments so the next person can see what the treadmill actually costs. And subscribe. This channel follows the chemistry, not the cash register.